Hey guys, it's Doc from the Gold Hog, and today I'm going to be doing a little segment and little instructional video on a couple different things. But let me go over real quickly what I'm going to do in this video and how it's going to progress. First, I'm going to talk about gold and why it floats in surface tensions. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about seasoning a gold pan. The next thing I'm going to do is talk to you a little bit about tapping a gold pan and some little tricks on that, and then I'm going to show you a little bit about finishing. So in other words, when you get down to just a little bit of black sand and gold from concentrates, how do I get that gold out? How do I get down to clean gold? So I figured I'd go over those four, run through it step by step, and again, this is part of our instructional series and hope you enjoy it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about gold and why it floats. There's a lot of myths out there, like some people say, well, when you touch gold, oil from your hands gets on the gold and that's why it floats. That's not true at all. I've been dredging in areas where humans haven't been for thousands and thousands of years, and no one has ever touched the gold that we get, and it floats. So unless some person from ancient Greece was in there touching our gold, I mean, it's not going to happen. It's not true. It's actually pretty simple if you just understand it. And there's a bunch of science involved with this, and I'm not going to get real deep into the science. I'm not going to talk about hydrogen bonding or the fact that you've got in water H2O, you've got two hydrogen molecules versus one oxygen. There's a bunch of different stuff that goes into this, and I'm not going to take it there. I'm just going to keep it real simple, like I always do, and pretty basic. But it has to, but if you're going to be panning, if you're going to be mining for gold, you do need to understand this. So why does gold float? It's pretty simple. Gold floats because it's hydrophobic and because there's surface tension. What does hydrophobic mean? Let me give you an example. If you have a car that hasn't been washed for a year and you spray it with water, the water sheets off. So in other words, instead of using cohesion and different words like that, I'm just going to use the word adhere, or it's attracted to. So it sheets off, which means that the water molecules are spreading out and they're going down in a sheet. If you wax your car, you make your car hydrophobic, which means that you're going to get beaded water. The water doesn't want to adhere to it, and beads of water are going to roll down. And what's happening there is water molecules are attracted to themselves. They will also be attracted to other things, but they're also attracted to themselves. But they're not attracted to things that are hydrophobic. And so hydrophobic gold, if you take a big piece of gold and you put a drop of water on it, it's just like a piece of grass in the morning with a drop of dew on it. It's hydrophobic, and it's just going to sit there in a droplet. You just have a drop of water sitting there because it's not going to adhere to that surface. Same thing with gold. The surface of gold, water doesn't stick to it. It doesn't adhere to it. And that's why gold is completely hydrophobic. So now that you know gold is hydrophobic, what causes it to float? Well, it's surface tension of water. So this is a water molecule, okay? So here is a water molecule, and a water molecule is attracted to a few different things, but mainly it's attracted, let's say, to other water molecules. So if you have another water molecule, they're going to be attracted to each other. And they're attracted to each other from almost all the sides. Let's just say almost all the sides, even though that isn't true. So I've got a water molecule here. You're also going to have an attraction here. You're also going to have an attraction here. So on all the sides, essentially, you're going to have attraction to it. It's a little bit different because of the way the molecules are joined, but I'm not going to go there. So think about that. If I've got a water molecule and it's attracting from all the different sides. Now, let's take a look at a gold pan with a bunch of water molecules in it. So if I look at this, the water molecules are being attracted to each other, which means that there's no attraction over this. So they're not attracted to the air. So what's happening is, since they're attracted to each other, they tense up. So there's a tension on top because they're pulling down into each other. And even sometimes, depending on the type of material that it is, they may even be attracted to the sides here. So you may have the water actually go up on the sides sometimes on this pan or on certain surfaces. But the main thing I want you to think about is that these are pulling in together, which forms a tension on the top. So there's all your water molecules. They're attracted to each other. There's no attraction up here, so they're pulling downward, and that creates a surface tension. You got it? Think about like a saran wrap, putting a sheet of saran wrap over this. That's a good way to think about it. So now we have a layer of surface tension. Since gold is hydrophobic, if you dip your water down and touch the gold, expose it to that surface tension, it can jump right on top and will sit there and float. So I'm actually going to put up a little video of gold floating right now. So you can see the gold floating. It's just floating around the pan. And what's really cool about this is you can actually chase it around with your finger. You can do a bunch of different stuff. It's pretty funny. Now, surface tension is really strong, and I want to prove that to you right now. Surface tension is pretty strong, and it's strong. Surface tension occurs when water is calm and cool. So understand that. There's three things that will break up surface tension. One is heat. Hot water has much lower surface tension than colder water. Turbulence. So if something's very turbulent, it has very little surface tension. The third thing is a surfactant. So a surfactant, a certain ingredient or a certain chemical or a certain substance that will cause that surface tension to be released. So instead of the molecules being attracted to each other, they essentially release and relax. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get that surface tension to relax in our gold pan. So talking about the surface tension and how strong it is, I'm going to show you another quick video, and this is pretty cool. And what you're going to see is you're going to see a piece of floating gold in here. And what happens is you're going to see a piece of floating gold in here, but what you'll also see is you're going to see a depression. You're actually going to see a depression in the water because that gold is heavy. And so you can actually see around that, it swells down, and there's actually a little dimple in the water, and there's a depression in it. It's the coolest thing if you ever sit there and watch it. And that'll show you, I'll put that up now, but this will show you just how strong that surface tension is. You can see that it's actually bowing down the water and creating its own little dip in the water. Now, something else that's really cool, that if you watch it, if you play with it and you get a bunch of floating gold to float, there's something, and this is actually a scientific name, there's something called the Cheerio effect, like the cereal, Cheerios. The Cheerio effect is why, if you have two of these, do they come together? I'm going to put up another video and you're going to see the two of them come together. Well, it really isn't a magnetic or attraction force. What it really is just a downhill force. So these depressions lower the water and they actually go towards the lower points and they'll come in together, and you'll actually see them actually come together. It's pretty cool. All right, so now we know what surface tension is. If you're talking about surface tension in a sluice box, honestly, a lot of people talk about gold floating down a sluice. It happens sometimes, but that's why I really like to see, if you have a sluice, to have one break point in that sluice that actually stops the water and creates a little bit of turbulence. And if you have that point, the gold that is floating will automatically go subsurface. That's why you'll see in a lot of our sluices, we'll have like one piece of river hog mat that actually creates one point of turbulence, and then we continue down the sluice. And that eliminates all your floating gold. So how do I get rid of surface tension? It's pretty easy. I've got a can of jet dry here. They actually come out, they actually call it finish now. There's several different things you can use. You can use jet dry. Heck, you can even use laundry detergent, the HE low sudsing laundry detergent. You can use vinegar, does it a little bit. There's several different things out there. You can use regular dish detergent. That works a little bit, but it's too foamy. And by the way, soap bubbles don't float gold. Soap bubbles, I just wanted to point this out, that soap bubbles have an extremely low surface tension. Very, very, very low. So don't worry about soap bubbles. They're not going to float your gold away. Some people say they do, they don't. So what we're going to do in a minute, I'm going to go in and show you about seasoning a gold pan, and you're going to learn about seasoning a gold pan, that it's going to look like, I'm going to show you a brand new pan versus an old pan, and it's going to look just like you're going to see a wax car versus an unwaxed car. And what you want when you're finishing, they actually make finishing pans that come with the surface, but you're going to want that finishing surface so that the water adheres to it smoothly. It comes down in a sheet versus being beaded up. And I'm going to put up that video in a sec. All right, so that's enough about floating gold. Now let's talk about tapping. I'm going to show you a gold pan. All right, so there's my gold pan. Now when you tap, when we're talking about tapping gold, you're holding a pan and you're tapping. Why does the gold move? Well, it comes down to inertia. If something has a lot of mass to it, usually heavy specific density, but a lot of mass to it, if you start to give it momentum, it'll have inertia, and that momentum will keep going forward. So let's use the example of putting, get on a linoleum floor, take a bucket full of dirt that weighs 80 pounds versus an empty bucket. Get them both going 10 miles an hour and stop. The one that's light will stop within a couple of feet. The one that's heavy, that thing will just keep going and keep going and keep going. You've seen it all the time. As an example, if you have something heavy in the bed of your truck, when you put your brakes on real hard, if you're going 50 miles an hour, you put your brakes on real hard, the light thing might slide a little bit, but the big thing that's in the back of your truck, boom, it's going to hit the back of your truck. It has inertia. It's storing that energy, and it's going to keep going. It's sort of the same thing with gold. Since gold is so dense, it has a lot of inertia. And that's one of the things I talk about a lot in our videos is I don't like to give gold energy. I don't want to give it the inertia because I want to be able to slow it down. So what happens is the same thing. If you think about your truck bed, that's the same thing we're doing with tapping. Is the densest, heaviest mass and heaviest density items, when you actually start that motion like this, you're actually doing that braking action in a truck. The heaviest items are going to go up. And they're gonna whenever you stop that motion, they're gonna go over. Same thing if you think about a shaker table. A shaker table is going, the way that it works is it goes this way, stop. This way, stop. And it's the same thing. We're slamming the gold against the bed of the truck. And that's what we're doing with tapping. So we're giving it a little bit of an angle up. We're keeping it underwater. You tap when the gold is underwater, when it's wet, and you tap. Same thing. That pan is going like this. And we're giving it only the heaviest stuff that maintains that inertia or that energy is going to keep going up and keep going up. And that's why you can tap gold to wherever you're tapping. But a lot of people don't understand the hand placement. I want to cover that. We're going to talk about noon and we're going to talk about 9. Now this is usually for right-handed people. If you're left-handed, you're going to do it opposite. But what you're going to do is wherever you tap, if you're going to tap the gold pan up here at the top, you're going to put your hand at the 9. Why is that? Well, you don't want it at the 6. Well, if I want this motion back and forth, if I want a back and forth motion, what happens if I put my hand at the 6? So I've got a pan here. So if I put my hand down here and if I'm tapping here, what happens? The pan doesn't move. It's not going up and down. But if I put my hand here on the side, the pan can move. So if I put my hand on the opposite of where I'm tapping, I'm actually defeating the purpose, and you'll see your gold doesn't walk as good. So whenever you have a pan, you want to put your hand here and here. So it's 1/4. Just think of a quarter. So wherever I'm tapping, I want my hand on this other quarter side here. And when I tilt it, I'm going to tilt my pan up a little bit, and I'm going to tap, and you'll see that gold walk towards wherever you're tapping. When you tap and you want the gold to move freely, it really needs to be underwater, and that's important. So when you're tapping gold, you want to move it. Now you can also, I'll show you a little bit later in the video, when I tilt the pan down flat, if I spread out my gold and if I tap it flat, I'll get a lot of that little fine 100, 150, 200 mesh gold. I can actually tap that and actually clean that gold out too. So that's another trick. So that's now, and a lot of people don't understand that. They tap the wrong way, and I see that all the time. So as soon as this video is real important, if you ever, for any kind of minor prospector to understand that tap placement. A lot of people don't understand that. Now, I'm going to show you, I'm going to go to a finishing video as well. And on my finishing video, I want to talk about how I hold this pan a little bit. Now, when I'm shaking, when I'm jostling this gold, my pan is like this. And I'm using this bottom corner, and I'm going back and forth. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it against my hand over here, okay? And what am I doing? I'm creating that inertia stop, and I'm getting all my gold to go over in the corner of the pan. Then, as I start to stop, I'm going to flatten out my pan, still tapping, okay? I'm flattening out my pan, and then I'm going to tilt it away from the tap. So you can see what's happening. I'm shaking it and tapping it, shaking it and tapping it, okay? Then I'm flattening it out, and then I'm tilting it away from the tap. So the whole time I'm spreading it out, and then I'm making it go fight uphill. So when you watch me do this finishing process, you're going to see that I have black sand and gold in here, and I'm going back and forth. And when I'm hitting my hand, there's a back and forth motion this way, and I have an inertia stop. And my inertia stop point is here. So if the heaviest, highest energy material hits the stop, what's going to travel the farthest? The gold is going to travel the farthest. So the gold will all be down here in this corner. So that's why I can do this, and even the fine gold, you can just tap, 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 and all your fine gold will be in this corner, even though it's still covered up with black sand. It's going to be there. And then what you can do, and you can take a sucker bottle, and you can just clean this corner out down here. Usually about 70% of your gold the first time you do it, you'll get. Then you do it again real quick, and then you'll be up probably 80-85%. You do it again real quick, you'll be at 90-95%. If you do it a fourth time, you'll be close to 100%, even super fine gold. The next thing you'll see me doing, which is real important, is the gold, the black sand and gold is going to be concentrated. You're going to see this here, and you're going to have gold and sand concentrated, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about spreading that out. So I'm down here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to shake it. I'm just going to shake it and spread it out under water. And so I spread this out all along here, and I spread it out thin, and I spread it out almost flat. That way what I can do is I can just gently tap, and you'll see the gold. Now I'll take this little corner here, and I'm going to spread it out a little bit. But my gold will still be concentrated in this area, but I'm going to have less of a buildup, and it's going to spread out real thin in here. Now, because it's spread out thin, when I tap it, that gold can walk through that black sand real easy. So I'm going from a pile of sand in my corner, all piled up. So I'm going from a pile of sand, black sand, down here. When I tilt it and I shake it like this, I take that pile, and the pile narrows down and it spreads out in my pan. So now I have a very thin layer of both black sand and gold. And when I tap, that gold can walk through that black sand very easily. Make sense? So I go from the pile to spreading out to tapping. And then you're going to see my magic back golden line. The gold will appear on this back golden line. I can sucker it out and clean it out. We've gotten to the point where we really don't use a whole bunch of finishing tools at all. I can pan very easily down to 150 and a lot of times 200 mesh gold and get out 95% of it. Put the rest of it away for the winter time and do a once a year run through a gold cube or something and clean the rest of it out. But it's a very quick cleaning method. If you learn this method, you can do this very quickly. So as an example, if I work with a commercial op and the commercial op says, say they have 60 gallons of concentrates out of their equipment, we'll take that equipment, we'll run it through a Gold Hog, which you only have to screen to 1/2 inch. We run it through a Gold Hog in supercon mode. Then after we do that, it leaves us with about a quart of gold and black sand. We can take a couple of pans and we can pan that out in 20-30 minutes using this method, and we can pull all of our gold out, probably 99% of it, and have perfectly clean gold very quickly. It's a very quick method. Again, we can run 60 gallons of concentrates through the Gold Hog probably in about 45 minutes and bring it down to a quart. 30 to 45 minutes, bring it down to a quart, work it with the pans another 30 minutes or so. It's a very quick process. A lot of places take, hours and hours and hours to clean their gold down. It really doesn't have to take that long. And it doesn't take a whole lot of equipment either. So I'm going to take you over, I'm going to go to the other side. We're actually working in the warehouse today, and I'm stealing a corner of it. I'm going to go to one of the workbenches over here and show you something on the panning side. Okay guys, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to seasoning a gold pan real quick. And I've got 2 cameras set up here, and what I'm going to do is I'm doing some talking to you here, and then I'm going to shift over here and go into a close-in. So if I need to show you any close-ups, I'm just going to, kind of weird, I'm going to jump over here over to this camera where I've got it zoomed in. So let's talk about seasoning a gold pan. I went ahead and I've got these 2 new pans here. They're just regular 14-inch pans, 16-inch pans. And I went ahead and started seasoning one of them. And what does seasoning mean? Seasoning means that the majority of plastic gold pans come in. Now they do make finishing pans, so I'm not talking about finishing pans. Finishing pans are almost ready to go. But what I'm talking about is regular gold pans. Most plastic pans come in with sort of a release agent, or they have sort of a gloss finish on them down here. And I'm going to show you the difference between seasoning a pan where you have sort of a smooth finish that the water can adhere to versus a surface that's more hydrophobic, where the water wants to sort of bead up. So you understand, now you know why I talked about surface tension first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the difference. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to get a little water in this pan so you can see it. So what I want you to see is, I want you to see the difference. See how this water beads up real easy and rolls around in beads? Let me get even a little less, and then I'm going to put it in the other pan. But you can see how it really beads up. Just like, okay, I just washed my car. It's beading up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these are those green scrubby pads that you get. Most people use them for dishes or for pots and pans. And then I have some 4/0 steel wool. So these are the two things I'm going to use. And what I'm going to do is I put a little bit of detergent inside this pan, a little jet dry or a little just regular dish detergent, and I'll scrub and scrub and scrub and scrub and scrub and scrub my pan. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to do this whole bottom surface and these edges in here, and I like to do usually the first inch or so right in here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my steel wool, and then I'm going to go back in, and I like to do circles, hard circles, and I'm going to do that whole surface again. Now I want to show you the difference between a seasoned pan or semi-seasoned. This was brand new, but you can see the difference. And what ends up happening is the water doesn't want to bead up. It sheets off. Just like, remember that dirty car I was talking about? The water doesn't want to bead up. So let me show you the difference here. So here's a seasoned pan that I've treated. It's nice and smooth. The water just sort of sheets down gently, versus an unseasoned pan. So here's an unseasoned pan. The water doesn't want to stick to it. It just beads around. And then here's a seasoned pan or semi-seasoned pan. And you can see how the water sheets. The water rolls and it's almost like it stays wet. So you'll have this smooth sheeting action go across versus an unseasoned pan where you get, it's just waves of water that you have to season the pan on. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how do you get that little bit of gold, how do you get that fine gold and that little bit of gold out of your concentrates. And I'm going to show you what I do with it. I like to have several pans. And of course the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my water. If I'm inside I like to use warm water, but I don't have warm water. And I put a lot of jet dry in. I mean, that's probably several tablespoons full. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take concentrates. Now these are our Gold Hog concentrates. We actually sell these, and they're mystery cons. So these are completely unsearched, they're unworked. We take them out of our equipment. They're from the southeast. We bag them up, we dry them, we bag them up. And again, I don't know what's in here, you don't know what's in here. That's what makes them kind of fun. Now these are only available seasonally. We will at some point run out of them. So if you want some of these, it's pretty fun. I like to call it a day of prospecting in a bag because heck, I think they're like 29 bucks for a quart, and most people will find, depending on where you live, the fun thing about these, you can go out and spend a full day prospecting, and a lot of people will find more gold in this bag in a whole day of prospecting. Some people, depending on where you live, I get emails all the time saying that's more gold than I found. I spent a whole week out prospecting. That's more gold. So they're fun. Again, we don't know. There's gold in all of it, but you got to be really careful because there's a lot of fine gold. The other thing about our concentrates is you got to be careful because that we do have gems in the area, and you want to look at every single stone. If you don't know what a ruby looks like, because a ruby looks like a piece of lead almost sometimes, you want to check all your stones. So what I'm going to do is I like to screen them to 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to take a pan, and I'm going to take a 1/4-inch screen. I'm just going to put a little bit in. And I just like to use, and when I'm painting concentrates, I'm looking for nuggets, because every once in a while we do find a big nugget. But I like to screen a 1/4 inch, and for me that's fine. So I'm going to do it in a different pan. I'm going to do it in a black pan actually. And all I'm going to do is I'm probably going to have to move this camera over. So all I'm going to do is now I do like to use these ridge sides when I'm initially panning concentrate. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my pan flat, and then I'm going to roll it. I'm going to tip it so it all goes down in this corner, and I'm going to stop. And I'm just going to let the water move the dirt. And I've said this, if you watched any of my panning videos, it's you let the water move the dirt doesn't move. And as soon as I start to see dark black sand, I'm going to stop. I'm going to bring it back down. Now, I've actually got too much in here. So I'm going to pan it real quickly. Now I'm just going to shake it. I'm going to turn it light. I'm going to let it turn light. Let it go dark. I'm starting to see dark sand, so I'm going to stop. Just bring it down, gently just shake it, fluidize it, let it all turn light, take the lights off. And I actually use sort of a little back and forth action just to bring it down to the dark sand. Bring it down, fluidize it a bit down in this corner. I'll bring it flat a little bit, and then I'm going to roll it down to that corner, let it turn light, and then I'm going to shake it out. Now, I'm pretty good at panning. I've done it a lot, so I can pan down to pretty fine gold. It's just experience and time. That's all it takes. I really don't have to worry about the surface tension here. So all I'm going to do now, I'm going to get rid of these ridges. I'm going to bring my gold down again. I'm going to keep my pan flat. Then I'm going to let it roll on the edge, let it turn light, and I'm just going to move those lights out. Bring the lights to the top, move the lights out. And it's going to be hard to see on a black pan, but now I've got all black in here. Matter of fact, I'll probably switch over to my blue pan now. Let me switch over to the one that I just... This will make it a little bit easier to see here. There we go. So again, I'm just going to move these lights. Let those lights go down, let the lights go down, get rid of those bubbles. Okay, now here comes, ooh, that's a nice piece of gold there. Again, I just went out back in the warehouse and I grabbed 2 bags of Collins, and I just put in, this is a quart bag, and I put in probably half a cup in here, 3/4 of a cup. So here's where you need to learn this trick. And it's that I've shown this before, but I'm going to show you how to do it on a cleanup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my hand here steady, and I'm just going to move my pan and the arm at the same time. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to start with my pan tilted down so it's all in the corner. In that motion, the material's all going to go back and forth, and then it's going to start to stop and hit, stop and hit, stop and hit. Okay? So I'm just keeping it just like this. Tap, 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 tap. You can see what's going on here. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to bring my pan is like this, I'm going to start to bring my pan a little bit level. So the next thing I'm doing is I'm going to level out my pan and sort of flatten out these concentrates. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to angle my pan a little bit away. So what I'm doing is I've flattened out my pan, and now I'm going to tilt it sort of away from where I'm going to tap. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. That was actually a piece of pyrite. And what I'm going to find is that the majority of my gold is going to be up in this left-hand corner here. going to start to see, that's a big piece of pyrite. That's not gold, that's pyrite. And what you're going to eventually see is, you're going to see this gold right up in this corner here. So, well, how does that help me when I'm panning, or how does it clean out? Because here's what I want you to do. This is how I clean up my cons, and it's really quick. I'm going to get this stuff down in this corner. I'm going to tap. And where's all my gold going to be? All my gold is going to be right down here in this corner. If I'm doing this right here, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to flatten it out. And if I take this bottle here, I can actually go in and I'm just going to take that corner. So I'm just going to take this corner of my concentrates. That's all I'm going to do. Again, I'm going to tap, 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 stop. If I want to tap it and wash it to see the gold, I can do that if I want. So in other words, I can spread this out a bit, and I can see if there's any gold in that corner. And you can see gold down to 150 grain mesh. Again, I'm just going to take that corner of it. And now I'm just going to inspect real quick. I'm not trying to get every single speck, I'm trying to get the majority of it. I want to get 99%, and that's how I do it. There's almost no gold left in there. So again, I'm going to put this in here, and I'll save all these cons and maybe run them through something. So let's get a little bit more here. Okay, so I'm still using our cons, and I panned out about 3/4 of the bag. This isn't the whole bag yet. So again, back and forth, you can see that, and so I don't have a stopping point for my inertia. So now, but if I have a stopping point for that inertia, I tilt my pan flat, tilt it back, and you can start to see, right now, you can start to see the gold back here. So I'm going to show that, try and get that to you. But you can see the gold there. So again, I have no inertia stopping point doing it this way. Now all of a sudden, stopping point, and you can actually start to see, if you have a lot of gold, you'll actually start to see it right away. You'll start to see that gold. But you can see that the gold, without even spreading it down, you can actually see the gold in there. But again, stopping point, that's my inertia stopping point. Bring my pan up, tilt it away a bit. And then I go to that motion that I talk about, I just spread it. So now you can see all the gold that's in here when I spread it. And where is it? All the gold is up in this corner. So now let's do this tapping. So I made this area thin up here. So I'm going to hold my hand, I'm going to tap at noon, hold at 9, and I want you to watch what happens to the gold. There. See, it's all in that line now up there. Follow the tap. So if I spread it back down, same thing, noon, and 9. You'll see that gold go up here. That has the highest inertia, and it's coming through. Now you can do this with really fine gold, and I'll prove it to you. But you'll be able to see I've got 150 mesh gold in here. Maybe you can see it. I'll zoom in here in a minute, but I've got 150 mesh gold up in here. And it's actually following my tap. I'm going to get the other camera real quick, and I'm going to shoot it. But you can see that gold in there and how fine it is. And there's the bigger gold up here. And here's that super fine stuff. I may even shade it out for you a bit. But that's all 100, 150, there's even 200 mesh gold in there. And it's actually tracking up. So the gold is actually tracking upward on this, going towards this point up here. You can see that gold line. So now I've got the gold starting to come up here, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to tap it, and now I have a gold line up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my water out, and I'm going to put the water over the gold, and I sucked out that gold line. And again, if I want to keep tapping a little bit, there's another very, very, very fine gold line over here. And now I've got the super fines coming in, and I'll take that out. But again, what I'll do again is I'll take it and I'll go one more time with it. Tap, 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 tap. Turn it up, flatten it, spread it, and I've got very fine gold, and it's all going to be up in this corner up here. It's right up in that corner. It's very fine. And now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to tap it till it goes in a line. Take that line out. I can spread it some more. And then I can do 9 and 12 and just walk it up. And then I just walk it up. And I keep doing that, and I do that 3 or 4 times, and that pan's clean. Get all my black sand out of there. I'm going to be pretty much black sand free. I'm going to have a little bit in there, but not much. Now I've worked down, I worked down half a quart of concentrates, and I've worked it down to really 200 mesh gold just with a gold pan. So if I just keep doing this, and now I'll do this and I'll have a 1/4 of an ounce sitting in the pan when I do this sometimes. But I'll just keep doing this and doing this and doing this until I get down to clean gold, and it doesn't take long at all. I mean, if I were to put this into, you know, some kind of cleanup system, you know, it might take 45 minutes, and what I'm doing is I'm just doing it in about 20 minutes or so, 20-30 minutes. I normally do it a lot faster. So that's it. I got clean gold in here, 100% clean gold, and I'll bake it up and dry it off. Now, you're going to need, when you're doing this method of cleanup, this reduction, 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 tap into the corner, reduction, you're going to have to have 2 snuffer bottles. You want 1 snuffer bottle and I would get them different sizes. I would use maybe the small snuffer bottle for really, really pure clean gold, and then use your bigger bottle for this cleaning process. And that way you know that, hey, just 100% pure gold is going in here. Take it to the frying pan, put it in your frying pan, drain the excess water off, and dry it up. So I hope that's helped you out. It's a real easy way to clean the gold. You just keep working that and working that. It doesn't take long at all. Again, if you super concentrate your cons, it really helps. You may have, like in a gold cube, you may have 2 cups of concentrates, a Gold Hog stacking unit, you may have a quart. You can clean your gold 100% all the way down within maybe about 30 minutes, and it's real easy to do. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you next time. Doc from the Gold Hog.